Hey there, just a quick reminder we have a mentorship program if you're looking for personalized coaching and mentorship to help guide you to the next level of your interior design business, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's processes and procedures or what services to offer to how to incorporate wellness, intention, or spirituality into your projects. Come join us over at designcoven.com/join. Or if you're just in search to connect with other like-minded interior designers, you can join our free community, also located at designcoven.com/join. Hello, we're at episode 65 of the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast, and I have another guest today, which is also a dear friend of mine, Matt Devine. One of the benefits of being able to have a podcast is I get to bring on special friends of mine and get to have these awesome conversations that I would have with them personally, but you all get to kind of dive in and be a fly on the wall. And so let me tell you a little bit about Matt. Matt Devine is a self-taught sculptor working with steel, stainless steel, aluminum, and bronze. Born and raised in New England, Devine moved to California in 1995, where he learned to weld and fabricate metal while working alongside his father. The contrasts of nature and industry, light and shadow, chaos and order are themes found throughout Devine's body of work. Pared down organic shapes are formed out of sheet and solid materials and welded together in harmonious accord, often allowing the metal to appear light as paper. These contrasts, plus the relationships of pattern and boundaries, addresses Devine's desire to contain chaos and push out the discord of an information-saturated culture. Since becoming a full-time artist in 2004, Devine has developed his signature sculpture style while building his fine art career. Devine's sculpture is on display at highly regarded art galleries across North America, Asia, and Europe. His works can be found in a myriad of private, corporate, and public art collections on 5 continents. Devine currently works and resides with his wife and daughter on their farm near Portland, Oregon, and just absolutely adore Matt, his art, his family, everything about them is so magical. And I invite you to enjoy this episode with Matt and I. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Hello. I'm so excited. I have a dear friend of mine, Matt Devine, who is also a beautiful sculptor, on today's episode. Welcome, Matt. I'm super excited to have you.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and this is your first podcast, so I feel super honored.
Yeah, it's the first project, so this is good breaking in with you, Rachel.
Right? It's going to be so good. I think people just learning more about you and where you're coming from and your process and everything is going to be really, really cool. So let me go ahead and set our space. I'm just going to ring our bell to get us into the present moment and just really connecting back into our bodies. And of course, I'm going to light a candle. So I always like to light a candle just to set the intention for today. And that, of course, is for connection, communication, creativity, and just, reconnecting, reigniting some of that passion for the arts. And then I'm going to pull a card. So I'm pulling a crystal card. Sometimes I'll pull tarot cards. Sometimes I'll pull crystals.
What's the difference?
Oh, that's a great question. So tarot is a bit more structured. So it's got 78 cards. There's 22 trump cards and 56 sort of minor cards, and
Mhm.
they're kind of tell the story of the journey, the hero's journey sort of situation, and corresponds to elements and things. And like I said, it's much more structured. An oracle deck is really loose. So it could be about anything. It could be plants, it could be words, it could be crystals. So it's kind of whatever the artist wants to interpret. And then there's no rule on how many cards there are for an oracle deck. So I'm pulling from Radiant Crystal. And this is designed by another interior designer. So it's pretty neat. Oh, okay. We've got emerald.
Oh, okay.
The emerald. So we've got expression, healing, and prosperity. All good things. This is the affirmation here is the courage to follow my dreams and manifest abundance. And I think that like really speaks to who you are.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You pulled emerald green because I typically don't do any green pieces. Like I've literally done, I think, 2 green pieces my entire sculpture career, and I just finished a green piece yesterday. So yeah,
No,
yeah, it's like
that's amazing.
it just got finished with the coating and everything. So
Oh my God, you're going to have to show it to us. And your birthstone's peridot. You just had a birthday.
I did. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Happy birthday. And to
Thanks.
you and
Thanks.
Molly.
Yep. My daughter, we share a birthday. So
Did you guys do anything fun? What'd you guys do?
she had a bunch of friends over, and
Yeah, it's all about her.
it's all about her at this point. So which is actually perfect because I don't really care for too much to
Yeah.
celebrate my birthday, so it's perfect. So
That's
it's
awesome.
great. It's all about her. So.
Yeah, so good, so good. So what are you nourishing yourself with? Do you have something that you drink in the morning that you
Yeah,
kind of start
so
your day with?
I'm a tea guy. I drink this great like kind of it's called Portland breakfast, and it's from this brand up here that is for people who don't know, I'm just south of Portland, Oregon,
Yeah.
and so it's just a wonderful local tea company that I drink in the morning, and then so I usually drink that first thing. Kind of sit, I look out, they have a kind of view of like this kind of Mount Hood and some like an orchard and kind of a cattle pasture. So I look out there in the morning, drink my tea, and then typically later on, like now I'll drink like it's called this meadow tea by the same company,
Mm,
and it's really nice, kind of soothing, and kind of gets me into the calms my mind a little bit to try to get into the
yeah,
workspace. So
yeah.
for the day.
What's the name of the tea shop or the company that makes it? You know?
Smith Tea. Yeah, Smith Tea Company.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, we'll definitely add them to the show notes. So if anybody wants to try the tea, I'm sure they would ship it, I would think.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Right?
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. That's beautiful. I've got a tea from Paru, who's local here in San Diego.
Neat.
And Mickey actually designed her shop.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah, so I love going in there, and then we do a lot of collaborations. So this was actually a new moon in Virgo tea, so it's got some
Oh,
peppermint
all right.
and some really cool stuff. So I thought I would honor that Virgo season today with you and her tea. So good. So tell me, what's home for you at the moment? Where are you at?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, so I lived in San Diego for about 20 years, and that's, I've known Rachel for a long time. And then we moved, my wife and I bought a small farm just north of San Francisco. We were up there for about 5 years. And then we were trying to have my studio on the property because I was always kind of had my studio away from home and just wanted to be closer to home and our family. And we tried to find a place in Northern California, just couldn't quite find it. And we ended up looking up in Oregon. My wife is from here, and found a beautiful 15-acre property up here with the studio on it. And it's not, it's about 45 minutes from Portland, but it feels like you're like a world away. And yeah, so this is home, and we have kind of a hobby farm, I guess. We have tons of animals, so horses, goats, pig, sheep, chickens, and then my wife Morgan is a flower farmer as well. So she uses the land to grow and harvest flowers and does weddings and stuff like that. So that's home. So yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And so you still have
Yeah.
the pig.
Oh yeah, Dave the pig. Dave the pig came from San Diego. He came from a friend of ours, Jen Gurin, designer down in San Diego, and he, I think she was expecting him to stay a little smaller than he got.
Yeah.
And he's full on big, like he's huge. So yeah,
Oh
so
my
Dave's
God.
great. And so he came up from San Diego, and he hangs out and now lives with the sheep and the goats and has his little pig thing, and he's full on.
That's amazing. I love it. Oh my God. So for those that don't know, well, they'll know if they're gonna know your work now, but can you tell us how you got involved with metal and art and like what was this journey for you? Because
Yeah. Yeah. So it was wouldn't say accidental, but definitely not a traditional path. I didn't pretty much I don't have any formal schooling besides, high school. So after high
yeah.
school I basically bounced around a little bit. I'm originally from the Boston area, New England, and pretty much right out of high school I turned 18 and moved west. Spent a little time in Utah, skiing, exploring Utah, all the national parks there. And then I ended up in San Diego. My dad was there. And so I was like, oh, I'll go to San Diego, visit him. And ended up liking San Diego, stuck around. He was working at the La Jolla Playhouse, the theater company there, and building sets. And so he got me a job as basically a set carpenter. And I think I was 19 years old, maybe.
hmm
And they were like, oh, so they taught me how to build sets with wood and did all that. And then they were like, oh, do you want to learn how to do metal? And I was like, yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
so I learned how to do the metal work there, basic metal work. And I was just like, wow, I just fell in love with it right away.
Wow.
And so for the next probably, you know, 5 or 6 years, I kind of bounced around to different fab shops and learning the trade. And during that time I was doing, furniture and, kind of more architectural work, but I was kind of always interested in sculpture. For some reason it just always kind of perked my interest. And I was working for this fab company, and we did a couple projects with San Diego artist Malcolm Leland. And for those who don't know Malcolm Leland, he did the gates at Balboa Park, the Sculptor Park right there in Balboa Park. He did the
Mhm.
big bow wave down the copper bow wave down by the Civic Theater in San Diego. And so he was kind of he worked with like Richard Neutra back in the day. And so he was about 80 when we worked with him.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and so we did 2 projects with him, one for Jonathan Siegel and one for Steven Eilenberg. And that was like, he designed the sculptures and we fabbed them because he couldn't fab them at that point.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we built them, and it was just like, oh my God, this was just like, boom. That was the turning point for me. That was like, it just completely fell in love with all that. And so I just kind of started this path on, okay, how can I do this? How can I figure this out and make this a career? And I didn't think I could make a living as an artist. I knew that the odds are pretty low for actually
Mhm.
supporting yourself as an artist. And so I was, in my later 20s, and I was like, well, I'll start a fabrication shop, and at least I'll have the tools and, the resources and a place where I can actually do metal work, because it's a little different than, painting, where you can have a
Yeah.
small studio and canvas. Like metal work, really, you have to have a lot of machinery, a lot of tools, and
Absolutely.
quite a bit of space. And so I started this fab shop thinking, oh, okay, well, at least I'll have the space, and I can kind of go from there. And these clients that were coming in for me to do their architectural work, they started noticing my artwork in the studio, and they were, my art would be hanging up on the walls and be like, oh, well, what's this? And
Yeah.
so they started buying it for themselves and then for their clients. And then, a few galleries took notice. I was nominated back in the day for San Diego Art Prize, like Emerging Artist of the Year. And this was like
Oh, cool.
early 2000s. And then I was in that show, and then L Street Gallery picked me up for a show. And L Street Gallery was like down by the ballpark. I think it's long
Yep.
gone now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think
Um,
they are.
yeah. And then from there, Madison Gallery in La Jolla picked me up. And then once that happened, they started taking me to national fairs, and that just
Mm.
pretty much exploded at that point. And it has started turning away fabrication work, and basically been a full-time sculptor now for about 16 or 17 years.
Uh,
So
I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty wild. You just kind of get this feeling all the time like, okay, is it just gonna stop? Is it just
Yeah.
gonna run out? And it just keeps going. And it seems like the more you create, it's just the snowball just gets bigger and bigger, and the network gets bigger and bigger. And but yeah, there's always that. I think every artist shares that sentiment, like, okay, people are gonna
Yeah.
stop buying my stuff.
Yeah.
Is this gonna just end one day, and
Right.
is the phone gonna stop ringing? So I think I think a lot of artists can assimilate with that.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like what you're doing and your turnout of all these products, it's just this overwhelming sense of abundance. And it's like it is never ending, but I know we get to these points where
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, like at some point this faucet's gonna shut off and everything's
Yeah.
gonna dry
Yeah.
up
For real.
and what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And all those things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories is when you had created the glass house and Morgan and I
Yep.
had come in and we were just like, we had our feathers and our fabric like all over your table. And I think you probably wanted to kill us because it was like
Yeah.
glitter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, and then we set up this kind of, it was called the coop, but it was like kind of a play on co-op. And Rachel and Morgan, my wife Morgan, kind of ran it, and it was like kind of this, people would come in and you guys would have like, was it like wine and create or something? I don't
Yeah,
remember the
yeah,
name
yeah.
you
Oh,
guys.
it's the bitch
Yeah, yeah.
stitch.
Yeah, that's right, the bitch stitch. And yeah, you guys would just have wine and hang out and
Yeah,
do creative crafts and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
but
it was fun.
yeah, no,
Um,
Glass House was a great space. We ran Glass House for 9 years, and I think at one point at the end we had about 30 artists in there, and
wow.
I think we had like 20 something different art studios, and everything from glass blowing to
Yeah.
ceramics to painting, photography. We had wonderful events there. We had the San Diego um, symphony play there multiple
Oh my
times,
gosh.
and yeah, it was great. And it was really unfortunate that it had to get kind of shut down
Yeah.
because of the fire code restrictions. And after the ghost ship fire in Oakland, that kind of nationwide, cities really clamped down on
Yeah.
all artist collectives all over the country, and
Yeah.
unfortunately we got crosshairs.
I
So
know.
yeah.
I know. I
Yeah.
miss that space. We don't have any, I mean, there's nothing like that anymore. And we're just
Yeah.
like, oh, those are
Yeah,
the days.
Bread and Salt's doing a great
A little
job.
bit. Yeah.
Bread and Salt's doing a good job. I think they have less artists than we had, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a really great working community, and it had a wonderful energy in there. And it was really nice to just be kind of constantly surrounded by creatives. It's actually the one thing that when I moved here to have the studio on the property, it was a big adjustment for me.
Yeah.
It was the first time I wasn't around any creatives.
Mm,
All my studios prior to that, I think I had like 3 or 4 studios prior, always had creatives around, and so there was just always this kind of energy. And so I moved up here, and
right.
all of a sudden I'm like super isolated, living on this farm, surrounded by cows and stuff. And it was like, whoa. And then like, COVID hit, and then it was like, oh my God, we just moved up here. COVID hit. Now I can't even go out and like meet new people and network. And
Oh my
so it's
gosh.
pretty, it was tough. It was tough the first, first few years here. It was like, oh man, I definitely questioned whether this was
Mm,
the right move. I started looking at offsite properties and, um, just kind of questioning that. But
yeah.
I've settled back into it now that kind of the COVID's on its tail end and I can get out more. And, I have 2 full-time studio assistants that are in here with me. And so there's a lot more camaraderie now
Yeah.
happening with my assistants that kind of not didn't replace
Right.
all the artisans, but there's definitely that energy back here, which is nice.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, is there anything that you're doing to kind of ignite that sort of energy, or is it really just with your assistants, or are you like,
It's my assistants, and then traveling again. So I travel quite a bit. I'm usually somewhere, traveling 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year.
wow.
And so with COVID, all of a sudden I've been traveling for 16 months, and it was like, whoa, okay. Now I'm here in the studio by myself. I'm not traveling.
Yeah.
And, the traveling for me is going to the galleries, going to the shows, going to museums, meeting other artists. And so I think just that for me, traveling again and
Hmm.
being able to go back. I was just in Houston last weekend for a show. And then a month ago I was in Jackson, Wyoming. And then a month before that I was in Boston for shows. And so it just kind of getting back on that again.
Got it.
It is kind of, it makes me really get out there and then
Yeah.
really appreciate kind of living a little bit more of an isolated
Mhm.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Get in, get that fixed, and then, okay, get back to my, you know, kind of zen farm here, so
Yeah.
get in and get out. So, yeah.
Total balance of all those worlds. So what's the inspiration, or how are you where's the inspiration coming from when you're making these pieces, and how do you determine like what goes where and
Yeah, for me, it's a really, it's a super fluid process.
okay.
It's kind of happening. It's happening when it's happening. I'm not typically an artist that, I might get ideas laying in bed or something like that. But for me, the inspiration and the ideas are really happening in the studio while I'm working.
Mm,
And it's so crucial for me to be here and to be part of that process and to work, because for me, work creates inspiration. So everything is so tangible. I don't really do any much sketching.
okay.
For me, it's really like making the minis, kind of like these minis you see behind
Okay.
me. It's really
Uh-huh.
making the small ones, and playing in the 3 dimension really is the inspiration, and is what kind of leads to the next piece. And what I'm currently working on always leads to the next piece. I'll be working on
Yeah.
something and get an idea while I'm working on that piece for the next piece, and so on and so on and so on. And so for me, really, the work is the inspiration. It's like the work creates the work,
Got
and
it.
it's just this huge like effect that just keeps building and building and building and building. So um, you know, I do a fairly good job of compartmentalizing it. When I'm in the studio, it's all about work and creative. But then when I'm done, it's like, okay, it's time to rest and recharge and let that creative side of me rest and take a break. And maybe I think we're I'm pulling inspiration from all around,
Right.
from whatever to see traveling or nature, whatever it be. But I don't think it's like, I don't typically look at something like, if I'm out and about, oh yes,
Yeah.
I'm inspired by that. Now I got to go make a sculpture. I think I'm just, I'm such a visual person, that I think I'm just kind of internalizing it all. And then when I get back to the studio, it all comes back. Look
Yeah,
at
and a lot of your pieces, there's a lot of repetition. So how do you
it,
determine
exactly.
the shape, or like what that first initial spark it like
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of got stuck on this kind of repetition form years ago. And it was more about, I'm such a minimalist, such a, trying to keep everything simple, but interesting. So it was more like, okay, what can I do? What can I do with one shape or one form? And that's still interesting and relevant. And if I shift it up just a little bit, and if I make a little change here, and so it's really just been this super slow kind of process of like playing around really with
Mhm.
these different shapes and different forms, and trying to make something as simple as a straight line. Okay, if I repeat this 300 or 400 times, is that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is the way I presented it? So, there's order there, but there's also a lot of chaos happening, and I'm trying to walk that line between, kind of organized chaos and trying to have this control, but yet there's this organic element that's happening. Um, and really at the end of the day, something that to me is visually beautiful. What I'm trying to do with the work is try to, for me personally, I'm trying to get in this kind of meditative state and kind of let the outside world pause for a minute
Mm,
while I'm making this. And I hope the viewer, when they see the work, they might get into that state, into
mm.
that space themselves, and kind of get lost in the repetition and the organicness of pieces and the fluidity of the pieces.
Ugh, I love that. That's so cool. I love the fact
Yeah.
of you like doing it and then creating this sort of this environment for someone else to kind of dive into that world and be there with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always tricky, trying to do stuff that's really minimal.
Yeah.
And you're always kind of questioning, like, is it enough?
Yeah.
Or is this just a bunch of crap? So there's always that line, like, is this boring?
Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
relevant? And so it's always kind of walking out. So,
Mhm. And are you, like, when you're being, presented in a gallery, are you, like, creating whatever it is that you're just in the moment of creating, and then they kinda come in and pull? Or, like, how does that process work as far as, like, choosing which goes in?
yeah, it's a little bit of both. Sometimes they might see something I posted on Instagram or some previous work that they were really excited about, or I'll send new stuff that I'm currently working on. Is also size to consider, and because I work in small scale and then wall pieces and then large freestanding, there's that whole aspect of it as well. Like, okay, we'll do one or two freestandings, we'll do a couple pedestal pieces, we'll do 6 wall pieces, and then they'll kind of um, it depends on the gallery. Some galleries, they're like, yeah, you do really well in blues, or we do good
Mm,
in whites. And so we'll kind of maybe tailor a show more towards that. Other galleries say, kind of do whatever you want, and I'll
right.
pick. Other galleries are a little bit more hands-on. So each gallery, it's a different kind of process with each gallery. And we found that, definitely the different locations, everywhere in that
Yeah.
show, it's a little bit different what people prefer, and some people like more organic forms, some people like the brighter colors, some people like the duller colors. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's all relative, and these are very subtle little
Right.
things that are happening. But um, so that's kind of how a show gets kind of tailored.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. And so are you just sending photos, or are they actually visiting, or both?
No, don't get too many studio visits from the galleries. It's all basically done through
Yeah.
photos and emails. So
Cool.
every now and again, we'll have a studio visit, but it's
Yeah.
it's
It's rare.
communication's so easy
Yeah.
now. It's with video and instant. Everything is it's so easy.
Yeah.
But it is always nice. It is always nice to finally see the show and see it up and see the work in person and see it all curated together um, in the gallery, and
Mhm.
because it just takes on such a different feel than my industrial
Right,
studio,
right.
and then seeing it in these crisp, clean environments with other artwork. I typically, you know, I might do a solo show here and there, but most of the time I show with other artists,
Okay.
and typically I get paired up with other painters, and so there's always that play that's happening with whoever I'm showing with, and how it relates what other artists.
Yeah. That's so
And it's
cool.
it's great, it's great, really great to see it in that setting.
Mhm.
And it's really important for me to see it in that setting. I notice things that I typically don't notice in the studio,
Got
how
it.
it relates to the surroundings of lighting,
Mhm.
or just, being in a big clean space,
Yeah.
as opposed to being in, that get kind of stuck in your vacuum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm sure it's also really rewarding and interesting to see it when it finally goes to its home, after somebody purchases it. Do you get to
Oh,
see, like, a lot of
that's the best. Yeah, yeah. I don't, so it's funny. I actually don't end up seeing a lot of that. I wish I saw more. I'd say maybe 40 or 50% of the time
Oh,
I'll see
wow.
where it ends up going. They'll send me a picture, but a lot of times they don't. They'll just go, "Oh, we sold this piece." And,
Yeah,
okay, great. Then
that's it.
they, a lot of clients are just kind of private.
Yeah.
But at the shows too, I'll get people that come up to me and they'll, "Oh, I bought this piece from you," and they'll go through their phone and show
Oh,
me
cool.
the piece they bought in the location, and that's honestly that's the best part. That's super cool. Like that's hands down,
Yeah.
because they saw something you saw, and then to see it in their space and their excitement, and that's hands down the best part.
Mhm,
So,
mhm. Absolutely, I can imagine that just being so awesome. Love it. So what's currently happening with you and your work and studio?
we just got through a huge push. I just installed actually a huge piece down in La Jolla. I didn't go for the installation, but just installed that. I just got back to Houston last weekend for a show down there, and then so I'm gearing up for. I have a show in Dallas coming up
Okay.
in November, so I'm kind of just starting to lay the groundwork for that
Wow.
show currently, and then I have a handful. Typically, usually have anywhere from a dozen to 20 commissions
Oh
usually
my
going
gosh.
on one site. Yeah, and so we're just kind of finishing up a couple of commissions at the moment, and more on the books.
Yeah.
that's kind of
That's awesome.
what's happening.
So
So yeah. There's usually a lot of stuff happening in the studio.
yeah,
So
it sounds like it. Oh my God. Yeah, you are a factory.
yeah. I'm producing a lot of work. So, but it's kind of the nature of it. I love to work quick,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't want to work slower.
Yeah, yeah.
I found for me, when I'm making stuff and producing work, it has to happen quick. It has to, because it's really an expression. I kind of feel like I'm
Got it.
almost painting with my welder, and I'm trying to capture an energy
Got
in the
it.
piece, and
Got it.
so I want it to happen quick. And so my studio assistants and my studio manager, they're just kind of helping facilitate that. Now, okay, now
Mhm.
that the piece is done, or then let's get it to paint, or let's get it photographed, let's get it shipped, and coordinating all that stuff. So
Wow.
so really their jobs are like prep, and then once it's done, okay, let's get this and get organized, get shit down, and so I can really focus on the creative
Mm.
aspect of it, and so I don't get tied down as much as I used to with all the logistics of it.
Yeah.
So it's a logistical nightmare. Sculpture is a logistical nightmare. So especially large sculpture. Um, so it's nice to I have a great team that really facilitates that, make
Yeah.
sure all the back end
It sounds
stuff
like it.
happens.
So when did you really solidify this team? Because I'm sure at one point when you were first starting out, you're like running all these things and trying to balance all the
Oh yeah. And then my wife Morgan, she was running it for a
yeah.
while, and then we're like, okay, we gotta start that. So I've had my studio manager. She's worked for me for 4 years. I've been working with her on it. She used to run a gallery I was part of, and that's how I know her. She's been with me 4 years, and then my kind of shop foreman, he's been with me a couple of years, and then my main welder, he just passed his year mark. Does a lot of my labor intensive welding,
Mm.
which that I don't necessarily need to do anymore,
Yeah.
which is but I still do a ton of the welding as far as putting the pieces together. He's doing more of the back end welding,
Got it.
the kind of non-creative welding, I guess
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could say.
yeah. So do you like knowing all of this now, do you wish you started like with that team like years back, or do you feel like this was just a natural way of going and
I mean, I think it's really good where we're at right now, and it's taken a lot of work to get to this
Mhm.
point. And I don't think if I would have started with this team, I would have learned as much about the pros and
Yeah,
cons and what to do and what not to do.
yeah,
I mean, you learn so much. It's just like trial by fire, and there's not really like a blueprint or this book you can go by. Okay, how to be a
yeah,
successful sculptor? Like sculpting for
yeah.
idiots. You can't go buy that book, and so it's really like, okay, let's figure this out. And a lot of artists too, they kind of keep their information close, so it's
Right.
really hard to get information from other artists, and so it's really been a trial by fire, and so we're finally at the point now where it's like, oh, okay, like no, we got a pretty successful kind of machine
Mhm.
here that is really works well, and it's a really balanced thing. I don't work crazy hours. I don't work like 60 hours a week. I'm not putting in crazy overtime. Like it's just very balanced. Like, okay, no, we're here. This is our creative
Yeah.
time, and this is our productive time. And then it's like, okay, now it's family time and vacation time. It's like kind of created this very structured on purpose lifestyle. Um,
Yeah.
More for myself than anything. So, because I couldn't really deal with the chaos of modern lifestyle. So
And
trying to create this kind of harmonious, kind of like zenny, okay, mix of this farm slash studio
yeah.
art world. And, yeah.
So
So very design on purpose lifestyle.
do you feel like you designed that initially, or is that something that you've learned over this time, or how did that come to be?
Well, yeah, a little bit of both.
Okay.
My wife and I, we visited this farm when really early on when we were first dating, and it was a friend of ours. He had this huge ranch in New Mexico, and we spent like 3 or 4 days with him. And he was kind of an artist, and he kind of kept cattle, and it was kind of like this really like pivotal point.
Mm.
It was like, wow, okay, she grew up on a farm, and I was like, I really related to him, and it was like, wow, okay, we kind of see this
Mm.
lifestyle happening for us. So we set that lifestyle in motion probably 13 or 14 years ago,
Yeah.
and it took that long to bring it to fruition. And so it was a very kind of purposeful okay, yeah, we want to take these steps and do this.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have always had that, that vision and that in the background. So it was always something that you were able to stay on path to kind of align.
Yeah, it was definitely like, living in San Diego and trying to dream this lifestyle and kind of put money away to purchase that first small acreage. So, it took a long, long time to get
Hmm.
basically to this point right
Hmm.
now. So, but it's working.
No, it's
So
amazing.
far, it's
And
working.
no, it's
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, anyone that's looking at it from the outside or whatever might be like, oh, he's
yeah,
got everything set up, and of course he's successful because of
yeah.
this and that. But they don't see all those years that you guys were just like, putting in the time and the work and
Oh yeah, just grinding,
uh,
and I don't come from money. Morgan doesn't come from money, and so this was really just us, like putting our ass on the
yeah,
line and taking these risks, and constantly kind of rolling the dice and going, but calculating
right, right.
risks and saying, okay, even the move up here was a huge risk. It was like, really, okay, we're going to leave our. We had a great setup in the Bay Area, and it
Mhm.
was like, really, we're going to do this, and that was huge. I mean, moving my studio was insanity. It was like it took four fully loaded semi
Oh
tractor
my
trailers
gosh.
just to move my studio. I mean, that alone was just this crazy undertaking. And
Wow.
then to move all our animals and then just move to an area and not know anybody and go, okay, and now I got to find metal suppliers,
Mhm.
powder coaters and workers and just going, yes, we're going to hope that this works out in the goal that
Right.
this is what this vision that we're trying to achieve. So, yeah, so it definitely hasn't been like an easy, it's an easy road for sure, but it's been exciting. It's definitely one thing after the other,
Right?
and it's been a lot of work, and it continues to be a lot of
Yeah.
work. I mean,
Yeah.
living a lifestyle like this, the animals, just if people, we have 50
Oh my
animals on this
god.
property, and yeah, I mean, they don't care what day it
Yeah.
is. They don't care what the weather's doing. They don't care what you feel like. And so it's like, okay, yeah, you
Yeah.
got to take care of them and you got to tend to the land and do this. And it's, for me, it's actually been great because it keeps me kind of grounded. I
Mm.
feel like it keeps kind of like connected. Like I've got back from shows and, you kind of all dressed up
Yeah.
for your
Yeah.
show and it's like, oh no, we're having a problem with one of these animals. Oh, put your farm clothes on. We got to go do this right now. And it's like 10 o'clock at night. You're out there with a flashlight trying to pull a splinter out of the pig's eye or something,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows what it is, so it's, it's just kind of part of the gig, but, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different lifestyle, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of work, but very
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
rewarding.
yeah, for sure. And is Molly partaking in the farm? And I'm sure she's got her responsibilities.
She is. She loves it. Yeah, she has chickens and she does the eggs, and she's really actually taken quite a bit to Morgan's flower farm, and she
Yeah.
loves all the flowers, and she's making little bouquets. Hasn't quite gotten into the metal thing, but she loves the wood shop,
Okay.
making little wood things for her cats. And, but it's great. It's really nice to have her
Mhm.
around. And she used to be really scared when she was younger in the
You're
studio
right.
and with all the sparks and noise. Now she's just like, standing right next to me. I'm welding. She's just like,
Yeah.
whatever, kid.
Super awesome. I love it. I wanted to go back to your
Yeah,
installation
yeah,
in La Jolla that you just did. Was that a private installation or is
yeah.
it public or what's the
Yeah. No, it was a private installation in La Jolla, and it was a 15-foot tall kind of stainless, this kind of arced kind of
Mhm.
stainless wave. I had done one for a show in La Jolla years ago, a small one, and then I did a larger one for a residential kind of community in was it Santa Ana, California,
Okay.
and then she saw this and then commissioned me to do a private one for her
Mhm.
house, and it's really cool because it kind of overlooks the ocean, and so it's kind of cool to see it there and see it overlooking the ocean at the
Yeah.
same time. So, yeah.
Super rad. So when someone comes to you with a commission, like
Mhm.
how much influence do they have over the design versus like what you're
It's more just that, like, for me, for them, it's kind of like a general, like maybe they saw something
okay.
that I did before. In this case, it was this kind of stainless wave, and so it was just kind of, okay, now I'll design that to kind of fit into their space and something that will work with them. And so there's a lot of photoshopping, tons of
Got
measurements,
it.
renderings. Make little minis, little mini models and then render those into, the photograph of their site and see how that fits in there and make adjustments. And so, yeah, so there's that. There's also the client that comes and just says, I have the space. What do you see? And so then I'll just present a bunch of different ideas that will work in in their space. But I don't get the client that come to me and says, oh, I want to make this or, or make this. And I'm like, no, that's really not my work. So anyone who's commissioned me at this point, it's, they've seen my work. They know my work. It's based on my skill. Whereas back in the day, it was like, oh, can you make me a steel rhinoceros? And I'm like, nah, not really.
Not really into that.
Well, but maybe if it pays well, because you got to pay the bills when you're younger. But no, those days are long gone.
That's awesome. And so what happens with these minis? Is this part of a collection that you're keeping, or does it go to the client?
I do, yeah. So I have a collection of minis, and they're kind of like my little, kind of like these guys back here. This one, this yellow one is actually the mini for, there was two. I made two for the Oceanside Museum. Actually up in Oceanside. And so this piece is sitting out in front of the Oceanside Museum. I think it's 9 or 10 feet tall. And I made a few studio studies. One of them we actually sold to one of their collectors. And then this one I kept for myself. But I do have a collection of minis. I try to keep them if possible. They're kind of like my little babies, my little trophies. But, sometimes the clients want them and they like to have them. And, you're not going to turn down a project just over spite of that. So I do have to give them up on occasion. But I do try to keep them. And then some of them I sell ones that maybe didn't get produced, or if I make a couple different variations on one, maybe I'll sell some of them sometimes. Or if I'm just messing around, a lot of times I'll just have extra studies that I made and just to work out an idea, then I'll sell those. But typically I do try to keep the ones that I've made on the larger scale. I do try to keep those.
Yeah, that's super, super cool. So how does somebody, are you represented by somebody, or how does someone get in touch with you to purchase or to do a commission? What's the
there's a couple different ways. Yeah. So I have about 15 different galleries I work with all over the world, and you can either get through them. The easiest way, honestly, is to just on my website or through Instagram, Matt Devine Art. MattDevineArt.com is my website, and then Matt Devine Art on Instagram. And then if you either contact me through there or contact me through Instagram, either one, I can direct you to a gallery in your location pretty much. And then it kind of goes from there. So, we can kind of figure it out from there. Those are the easiest ways.
Amazing. We love it. So are you coming back to San Diego anytime soon?
I'd like to. I was back there about a year ago for the Oceanside Museum to come down and visit that piece, but I haven't. Don't have any plans at the moment, but I'd like to. I have so many friends down there, and it's such a pivotal part of my life and my art career. And it's just, San Diego is I have so many fond memories of San Diego. And so I do try to get down there once a year if possible. So I don't currently have anything at the moment, but that's not to say
we're going to put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would, it'd be nice to come down and go to a show, maybe at Brandon Sculptor, Quinn Gallery or something. And just to see everyone.
Exactly. Exactly. Like old times for sure.
Yeah, totally.
I know you hinted at it a little bit, working on the farm and connecting with the land, but do you have any other practices that you're currently enjoying that you can share with us as far as being grounded? And
so I'm an avid musician. I played in a few bands in San Diego, but I'm basically guitar. Guitar is definitely my super love. I'm kind of a guitar geek. I collect guitars, and so that's definitely occupies a lot of my extra time. I'm currently learning how to play the piano, and so my mom knows how to play, my grandmother, and so we bought a piano for the house to have when my mom comes and visits, and so my wife and daughter and myself are taking piano lessons at the moment, and so that's really been kind of fun to you see how that relates to guitar and music. But I'm a huge music fan, and always kind of envisioned myself as playing it, touring
Yeah.
the world, but I can't. I'm such a homebody. I can't live that lifestyle. So this lifestyle suits me much better, and I can just be a closet
Yeah.
musician and geek out on my own with my guitars and be nerdy.
It's amazing. I love it. So good. Oh, Matt, it was great catching up
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. I know that you've got so much going on.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful. Wonderful to see you. It was, I'll just
Yeah.
tell a quick little story. So when I was first starting out, Rachel did some work for me, and you were helping me kind of promote. This is way back early 2000s, and we did this show in New York City, this trade show in New York City, and we didn't know what we were doing. And Rachel came out, and we shipped everything, and we were like at Pier 94 in this big, huge. It was actually part of the Architectural Digest
Yeah.
trade show, and we had this little booth there, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and we were broke as hell, and we all crammed into this little hotel room, this teeny hotel, and we all like shared a bed, like laying like crossways
Totally.
on the bed together. And then you ended up like missing your flight because you didn't know, like, I don't know, like you didn't know how to get to the airport or what ended up happening, or missed the
Yeah.
train. But it was just kind of like we didn't sell anything, and but it was a good experience,
Oh my,
and it was a good time that way back
oh
in.
my God. I totally forgot. I mean, I knew it was there, but you mentioning them, like, oh yeah, that's right. We did do all that. It was like so
Yeah.
crazy.
We did. Like that hotel room
It
was
was like
so
literally the
small. We were
bed.
like, okay, I guess it was like the bed. And we're like, okay, I guess we're all just sleeping lengthwise here. And then it was
Yeah.
pretty funny. And then just standing at the booth all day long and like not selling anything. It was like 4 days
Yes.
long. It was, but it was, it was funny. I did get a few clients from that, and they still order
Shut up.
stuff from me every now and again. Like it's super rare, but like we'll get an occasional, oh, hey, this is so and I was like, oh my God, yes, from the Architectural
Yeah.
Digest fair. And yeah.
No,
So,
we did work it.
that
I
was,
mean, we were on that floor and just like,
oh yeah, totally. But we didn't know where I didn't even know how to build a proper crate. Like, luckily all the work got there okay, but then we got back, the crate was all
oh my
crushed,
God.
and it was, I mean, and this, so again, trial by
Yeah.
fire. And that was one of the early
Yeah,
days.
that was,
So
it was fun though. And then we also did like another couple little shows in San Diego of like,
we did. Yeah, totally.
but
Yeah.
always a good time. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah.
Aw. Well, tell Morgan I said hello. I miss her dearly. I love hanging out with her, and us crafting and making stuff together is always super fun.
Yeah, no, definitely say hi to the family.
I will. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events, so everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, Blake Ferris, for all of her special help with the podcast, our social media posts, newsletter, and lastly, Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.